Tonight on Live at 5, a census in India is underway, and Secretary of State Colin Powell meets with UN Secretary General to discuss sanctions against Iraq.
Also on our top stories, a fatal pileup in Oklahoma City claims the lives of 3 people. Stay tuned for Live at 5.
News Live at 5.
Good evening and welcome to TV16 News Live at 5. I'm Heather Gray.
And I'm Sandra Kirk. In tonight's top stories, the Indiana man wounded by a federal agent in last week's brief but tense standoff outside the White House was arraigned in a U.S. District Court in Washington Wednesday and ordered held without bond. Robert William Pickett of Evansville wore a large brace over the right leg of his blue jeans as he walked with crutches into the courtroom of Magistrate Alan Kay. Pickett was informed he had been charged with assaulting a federal officer, which could carry a penalty of up to 10 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. He was ordered held without bond pending a preliminary hearing and bond hearing next Tuesday.
It's being billed as the largest bureaucratic exercise in the world, counting 1 billion Indians. An army of 2.2 million volunteers is collecting census data in 18 languages across more than 5,000 Indian towns and 650,000 villages. And as Stanton Bindra reports, this count is more than just a numbers game.
It's time for more than 1 billion Indians, that's about 1/6 of humanity, to stand up and be counted. But counting so many people takes a small army in itself. In the past few days, more than 2 million volunteers, about the population of Mongolia, have been going door to door.
Well, the exercise is spread over 35 states or provinces, as we say, 593 districts, over 5,000 towns, 640,000 villages. It's done in 18 languages.
This year, India is making an effort to count those it's never counted before, mentally ill children and the disabled, many of whom beg for a living. But rather than having the government count them, many disabled say it should do something about their problems first.
The government should give us shops, which we could run and then earn a living.
India says its census is the largest bureaucratic exercise in the world. But for more than 2 million enumerators, it may also be one of the toughest exercises.
Sometimes people don't even open the door, or sometimes they'll just talk to us from upstairs.
Counters have also run into trouble with prostitutes, who objected strongly to being listed as beggars. Authorities now say all prostitutes will be listed as self-employed sex workers. India's census will be completed in early March. By the time it's over, the country's population will have increased by about 1 million people. The census data will also be used to try to improve the health, education and living conditions of more than 1 billion Indians. With so much riding on the census, officials are warning Indians they must answer all census questions honestly. Otherwise, they could face a fine or 3 months in jail. Satinder Bindra, CNN, New Delhi.
Secretary of State Colin Powell says Washington will not seek tougher sanctions against Iraq. Instead, he says the Bush administration will insist that Baghdad comply with existing sanctions. Powell met with UN Secretary General Kofi Annan Wednesday to discuss several issues. They touched on Iraq's resistance to allowing inspectors to verify the destruction of its banned weapons. Powell's visit comes ahead of talks between Annan and Iraqi Foreign Prime Minister Mohammed Saeed al-Sahaf.
3 people are dead due to icy road conditions in Oklahoma City. Freezing rain left a dangerously thin sheet of ice on highways late Wednesday, leading to a 30-vehicle pileup at the junction of I-44 and Interstate 40. Video at the scene of the accident showed drivers running from their cars just seconds before tractor-trailer trucks and other vehicles slammed into the already damaged cars. The eastbound lanes of I-40 were closed for 8 hours while the wreckage was cleared from the scene.
It's been a decade since Russians began moving away from communism, but for many, shedding the old ways has been difficult. Steve Harrigan looks at how change is sweeping one town, whether its residents like it or not.
where a loaf of bread cost 4 times less than anywhere else. Ulyanovsk on the Volga River, hometown of Lenin, has been for a decade the last communist holdout, where half the local budget was spent trying to keep prices low. Until now.
All the rest of Russia, like the whole world, lives by the rules of the market. Here, they tried to hang on to socialism. That left us with low salaries and businessmen with no incentive.
The new governor chosen to break with the past is an ex-general from the Chechen War, decorated for heroism by the government, accused of using excessive force against civilians by the Chechens. 7 of Russia's newly elected governors are either ex-military or KGB officers, part of the so-called Putin effect, a weary public hoping a strong man can make order out of chaos.
People are hoping for an iron hand. This was a corrupt city, run by criminals. Maybe that will change.
That iron hand will have to be able to sell. The region's economy depends on a factory that once made 72 planes a year. It sold just 2 in 1999. Even Aeroflot, no longer run by the government, buys Boeings instead of Tupolovs.
In the old days, you didn't have to think. The government ordered the planes, and we made them.
Now the people of Ulyanovsk will be forced to think how to pay 2 times more for a bus ride, 6 times more for heat and hot water, and to part with a past that has hung on longer than anywhere else in Russia. Steve Harrigan, CNN, Moscow.
Stay tuned. Adrian Steed will be back with your weather.
Along the road of life, you will encounter many changes and obstacles. Mapping the trip can help you make the correct turn and choose the best path. If you're at least 25 years old and not already receiving Social Security benefits, you will receive a Social Security statement about 3 months before your birthday. Your statement shows how much you have paid into the system and how much you can expect to get back when you are eligible. Watch your mail for your Social Security statement and use it to plan your financial future. The sooner you start, the easier it'll be to meet or exceed your goals. The future is in your hands.
And joining us now from the weather desk is Adrian Steed. Adrian, is this rain ever going to go away?
With the way it's been going, Sandra, it doesn't seem like it, but believe it or not, there is an end in sight for the rain. Looks like Friday we're going to have some more rain tomorrow, but it looks like finally after Friday we're going to see the rain breaking up and seeing sun for the weekend. There's a shot of some scenes around campus and people out there enjoying, if you want to call it enjoying, the nasty weather that we experienced today. It wasn't really raining today, though. It was kind of misty, drizzle, nasty, overcast skies, and that's where we're still sitting at overcast skies. But we're also seeing a temperature of 58 degrees, which is well above normal, which we should be seeing about 53 degrees today. So we're about 5 degrees above normal, I should say. And we're going to continue to see warm temperatures for today, but then as we move into tomorrow, the cold front's going to push through, continue to see rain, and continue to see the temperature will start to drop. We're looking at 58 degrees and 100% humidity because it's been nasty rain in the past couple days, and we have seen in the past 2 or 3 days, we have seen about 5 inches of rain here in Searcy. So you know it's been raining, and the figures say that it's been raining. We're looking at a barometer of 29.74 inches of mercury, and the winds are out of the north at 4 miles per hour. Taking a look at the highs for today, there is a plethora of temperatures across the nation, and I've always wanted to say that on TV. Now I have plethora of temperatures ranging from the teens in Montana and North Dakota all the way to the 80s, must be nice, down in Florida where they are racing the twin 125s. I don't think Josh is going to tell us about that today, but they are racing the twin 125s in Daytona to qualify for the Daytona 500. They had nice weather today. Unfortunately, we did not. We were at 58 degrees, and we were in the 50s. But there are 40s in the northern part of the state and 60s in the southern part of the state. Now, I'll take a look at our surface map and tell you why we're seeing this weather. This is the low-pressure system. This is a storm system that is creating all of the bad weather that we've seen. This major system, and it's associated with this cold front that's pushing through. And as this cooler, denser air pushes into the south, it's lifting that warm, wet air and squeezing it out as it gets up into the upper atmosphere. And that's why we're seeing all this rain. And we're seeing some severe weather popping up in parts of the state, and we'll see that as we take a look at our satellite, our national satellite and radar composite. And you can see a hint of yellow here in Oklahoma and into northwestern Arkansas. And as we zoom in closer, you'll see those popping up right there and right out there. And that is some stronger thunderstorms, but it looks like in White County we're going to be out of the woods as far as the stronger thunderstorms are concerned for the rest of the night anyway. Zooming in a little closer to the natural state, you see most of the southern part of the state is having some scattered showers associated with this system, but the big system has not gotten into the state yet, and that's what we're looking at in the northwest part of the state and in Oklahoma. But as we move into our forecast for tomorrow, here you see what's causing the system. Again, the cold front is going to be pushing through, and that's going to lower our temperatures as we get into tomorrow. So we're not going to see the 58 that we saw today. It's going to be more like in the 40s tomorrow. But the system is going to push through, and there's even a forecast for tomorrow of some ice in the mountain part and the Ozarks part of the natural state. But it looks like we're going to be out of the woods for ice. We're just going to see some more rain continuing through tomorrow. And this is tomorrow morning. Tomorrow evening looks something like this. The system is slowly working its way eastward, and I guarantee tomorrow, well, I'm not going to guarantee, but I will say that it looks like tomorrow we're going to see this rain finally breaking up, and for Saturday we're going to see partly cloudy skies. We'll see that as we get into our 3-day forecast, or tonight and tomorrow. First, we're going to see a low of 52 tonight, and then tomorrow it's going to be 49 for your high. So the low tonight is going to actually be close to the high tomorrow. And then tomorrow evening, we're going to cool way down to 30, so it's going to be more like what we should be seeing for this time of year. 5-day forecast looks like this. 49 for your high tomorrow, as we said, and continued showers. But as we move into Saturday, we're going to have partly cloudy skies. And look, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, no rain is in the forecast. But there are cooler temperatures until we get to the early part of next week, where it's going to warm up, and so be more like February weather that we should be experiencing. And we are going to see the sun again. I promise you that, Sandra.
Thanks, Adrian. And coming up after the break, fighting continues in Israel while leaders build a new government.
And Alltel announces employee cutbacks. Stay with us.
Imagine what it feels like.
Join the United States Coast Guard or the Coast Guard Reserve. Stop drugs, save lives, protect the environment. Be a hero every day. Call toll-free 1-877-NOW-USCG. The Coast Guard. Jobs that matter.
In Israel, Prime Minister Ehud Barak appears ready to accept a post in Ariel Sharon's new government, that of Deputy Defense Minister. It might not be a marriage made in heaven, but Sharon needs Mr. Barak's big Labor Party to show up a coalition government. Israel, meanwhile, has sealed off Gaza in the West Bank again, imposing for the first time a naval blockade. This in response to Wednesday's attack south of Tel Aviv that killed 8 Israelis, 7 of them soldiers. Gerald Kessel has more from Jerusalem.
In the southern Israeli town of Ashkelon, just 10 miles from Gaza, Israelis bury another of their dead. Corporal Yasmin Karisi, 19, was one of the 4 women soldiers among the 8 Israelis killed in Wednesday's hit-and-run bus attack. The Palestinian bus driver was intercepted and wounded after he'd sped away from the scene of his attack. Israeli police say after interrogation, the 35-year-old driver told them he'd planned the attack before leaving Gaza, that it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act. In Gaza, another funeral of Palestinian policeman Nasser Hassanat, 23, shot and killed early Thursday as he tried, Israel says, to infiltrate a Jewish settlement enclave. In the wake of the bus attack, Prime Minister Ehud Barak ordered a complete closure of Gaza and the West Bank. The focus, however, is on what incoming Prime Minister Ariel Sharon will do once he's able to form a new government, probably as early as next week, and very possibly with Mr. Barak as his defense minister. Mr. Sharon's being guarded about what he says.
I'm going to form a national unity government, and that's what I'm going to do. I think it's important. I think Israel needs unity, and that will enable us to really reach security and peace.
In Gaza, Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, returning from abroad, was asked about President Bush's appeal that both Palestinians and Israelis must calm the situation. I thank him for that, said Mr. Arafat, but he should know that we are not the ones who use depleted uranium or poison gas or helicopters or shells or tanks. Israel dismisses as a lie the Palestinian claim that its troops have been using gas or depleted uranium during recent gun battles in Gaza. But that first public venture by President Bush into the minefield of Middle East rivalry has left Israel slightly uneasy.
If this kind of policy of even-handedness and calling on both sides equally to end the violence continues, it will be a major concern. From an Israeli perspective, certainly from the perspective of Sharon government, the United States is expected to be an ally in the fight against terrorism and not someone who sits on the sides.
Both Israelis and Palestinians are waiting to see in just which direction the new U.S. administration means to take its Mideast policy after the inaugural visit to the region by Secretary of State Colin Powell at the end of next week. Gerald Kessel, CNN, Jerusalem.
NATO Secretary General George Robertson is calling on ethnic Albanians in southern Serbia to begin peace talks with Belgrade. He spoke in Brussels, where NATO is looking for ways to bring genuine peace to the region. Tricia Kelly reports.
The delegation from Belgrade came armed with a detailed plan they believe will end the spiral of violence in southern Serbia, the scene of increasingly violent clashes between ethnic Albanians and Serb security forces. But the Serbian government's proposal to demilitarize at least part of the conflict zone within 120 days is deemed over-optimistic by NATO.
The Belgrade proposals are complex and they will require a great deal of study. Nobody should underestimate the difficulties involved, and we must be realistic about how long it will take to reach a solution. The problems caused over 40 years cannot be solved in 4 months.
Ethnic Albanian separatists are using a 5-kilometer wide buffer zone between the Kosovo province and Serbia's Preševo Valley to launch attacks on Serb police and military patrolling the Preševo Valley. The Serbs want to shrink the buffer zone, claiming it's no longer necessary. NATO says it's too early to do that, but made a pledge.
NATO and KFOR will continue with its efforts to cut off the supply of people and arms into the ground safety zone.
The Serb peace plan envisages a pilot project to remove both extremists and Serb security forces from 2 villages. The goal, to allow locals who have fled the region to return home.
For the sake of the people who live in the region, it is necessary to do all this gradually and without any haste.
The Serbian proposals allow up to 3 years for the full reintegration of ethnic Albanians into the mainstream of Serbian life. NATO says it's important to start doing that now.
A start could be made by removing from southern Serbia the Pristina Corps, those military forces who were involved in operations in Kosovo in 1998 and 1999. The presence of those who have been previously involved in ethnic cleansing is a clear obstacle to peaceful reconciliation.
Belgrade is refusing to consider ethnic Albanian demands for autonomy in the Preševo Valley, a refusal NATO says it fully supports. NATO's cautious welcome to the Serbian peace plan was tempered with a warning to Belgrade not to attempt to solve the conflict with a military crackdown. But the Serbs claim there is little time left to prevent violence in the Preševo Valley from spreading further in the region. Patricia Kelly, CNN, at NATO headquarters in Brussels.
The Little Rock-based company Altel Corporation has announced cutbacks which could eliminate more than 400 jobs. The news of the layoffs come on the heels of announcements made by Verizon Communications and WorldCom Incorporated, two of the nation's leaders in telecommunications, to make drastic cutbacks in their workforce. Altel's plan to cut costs, which is being fueled by the problem of the ever-changing competitiveness in the wireless phone industry, is not being made public yet. Altel's dilemma comes in the form of needing to cut costs of rate plans and handsets in order to draw more customers. ING Barings analyst Frank Marsala says he wouldn't be surprised if there were some layoffs due to the need for more customer investment in the company.
A gasoline tanker explodes while sitting in the parking lot of a grocery store. It happened on Wednesday night at the Strix Grocery in Faulkner. Police say the truck's driver suffered critical injuries and that he was rushed to Ripley Hospital and then later transported to Memphis Medical Center. The tanker was holding more than 9,000 gallons of gasoline when it exploded. No other injuries have been reported.
In Northwest Ohio, a chemical reaction at a plant forces the evacuation of several nearby houses. It happened at the Brush-Wellman plant in Elmore. As many as 7 homes were evacuated after the contents of the barrel began smoking. Plant officials say the barrel contained either solid beryllium or an aluminum beryllium mixture. Beryllium is a metal, and prolonged exposure to this chemical dust can lead to a fatal lung disease. Workers poured sand into the barrel to stop the chemical reaction. No word whether any toxins got into the air.
The cost for cable has gone up again. The rise in prices is due to the increasing price companies are having to pay to provide popular channels. These increases are the same for cable providers that face competition in their market and those that do not. The cable companies are trying to make light of the fact that they are trying to hold down prices while facing rising prices for popular channels.
And the Lady Bison soccer team has a new addition, I'll tell you who, plus highlights from last night's NHL and NBA action. So go grab some Mylanta because we've got nothing but the most explosive sports news and highlights coming up next.
Gee, I know it's got you down. That contractor that was supposed to fix your roof goofed and left you holding the bucket. And that new car that won't go. When you told the car guy the problem, all he said was, I don't know. That got you feeling like an old hound dog. Well, open your present, Fido. Your dog days are over. Listen, it's the new Consumer Action Handbook, free from the government. With this puppy, you'll get repairs repaired, credit fraud fixed, telemarketers silenced, wrongs righted. Look, companies, government agencies, names, numbers. With this book, nobody will treat you like a dog. You at home, pick up the phone. Get your free Consumer Action Handbook. Call toll-free 1-888-8-PUEBLO or log on to www.pueblo.gsa.gov. It's a consumer's new best friend.
Welcome back. Joining us now is Josh Davidson, and he's got the latest in sports.
So Josh, tell us who this mystery person is that's joining our new ladies soccer.
Well, actually, there are a couple mystery people, and this is a story that we'll go ahead and run next week as well. I have one person so far, and we'll talk about the others next week. We're doing a story on the soccer teams here at Harding. That's a sport that's not often highlighted, especially by NCAA collegiate teams here in Arkansas. So we're going to do that a little different, because we do things like that here on TV 16. Going on now, the Lady Bison soccer team has made a valuable addition this week, signing high school All-American Lori Boren. Boren is the sister of former Bison soccer Luke Boren. He's the former star. In her 4-year career, she has scored 86 goals and dished out 49 assists. Boren was recruited by Coach Terry Edwards, who may be stepping down from his head coaching spot with the Lady Bison. For more on this still developing story, as I said earlier, tune in to Live at 5 on Tuesday for comments from Coach Edward and team leader Heather Gray, our very own Heather Gray. What was going on in the rest of the sports world? Good question. Let's go now to the ice in Detroit, taking on Carolina. Carolina winning 3-0 here. We're on in the second period. Finally, Sergei Fedorov getting his swish on. 1-3. We're on now into the third quarter. Fedorov passes to Osgood. Osgood with the shot. 3-2. Still in the third period. They're up by 1. That's Carolina who's up by 1. Fedorov again nails it. Now we're at 3-3 going into overtime. 1 minute, 6 seconds left to go. Who's going to be? Of course, Sergei Fedorov. They're going, oh, hello. I mean, Sergei Fedorov had 2 goals. I'm sorry about that. Got a little distracted. On now to the NBA, we go to the First Union center, Allen Iverson. He's coming back from MVP performance at the All-Star game. What is he going to do tonight? Well, he's going to do a lot. That man, Kobe Bryant, not going to do a lot, surprisingly. Iverson, I think I'll... Nah, in your eye, Kobe Bryant. Get out of my face. Iverson goes down. That's only 3 of many, many points he had that night. Brian Shaw, he's going to pass it off the backboard. Kobe Bryant, it's nice, but not nice enough. He only had 18 points, 7 for 13. Now outside to Shaq Fu. He is back in full effect. 29 points. Here he draws the foul, and he gets the shot. He's back after straining his right arch. There's Theo Ratliff straining his right quadricep. That's a little tongue twister for you. Tony Kukoc to Chad McCullough. The apocalypse must be on us, folks. Chad McCullough is scoring baskets. Iverson over Lou, over Shaw. Get in there. Iverson is on fire. Iverson went, of course, 14 for 29, 40 points. The 11th time this season that he's done that. Phil Jackson, what am I going to have for dinner after this game? Who knows? The Lakers are tired. John Starks is pumped, though. He's coming up to face his old team, the New York Knicks, going on seeing Allen Houston. Who's the leader of the Jazz? You know, Karl Malone. Malone getting busy early. He goes up, draws the foul, and the shot. Jeff Van Gundy looking as happy as he ever is. Shot for Malone again in the paint. It's good. Get off me. Charlie Ward with the rebound, though, onto Latrell Sprewell. Sprewell with the dunk. Sprewell 7 for 13, 23 points. Jerry Sloan looking as happy as he usually is. Malone this time going up. Kurt Thomas pushing him to the ground. Somebody call my mom. Somebody. Ah, he's okay. Get back up. Latrell Sprewell gets the foul from Malone. Sprewell's going to get down on the floor. Call her too. Call my mom too. No, they're okay. They're both okay. They go on to play the game. John Starks, the nail in the coffin. Say goodbye to the Knicks. 102-87. Starks with 16 points. Let's take... Oh, there's a little fan. I don't know if she's more interested in the game or the rose. Who knows? All I do know is that the Jazz went ahead and won. Who else won in the NBA tonight or last night? The Bucks 102-98 over the Hawks. Magic 114 over the Clippers 101. And the Suns came out on top against the Timberwolves 104-96. I don't know who that guy is on the side there, but the Pistons won over the Nets 105-86. And that, ladies, is sports. Do you need my Lanta?
Maybe later.
Okay.
Thank you. Coming up, a story about a couple that spent their 80th Valentine's Day together as man and wife.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still, they come. Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
And that's it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. From all of us at TV 16 News, see you tomorrow night at 5.